Welcome back to this Money Control live stream. You're watching Closing Bell with me, Nandita Khemka. Well, we started out on a good note, but we took a sharp U-turn thereafter, and the Nifty tumbled over 200 points. But we did manage to close around that 24,550 mark, just a shade below that level. But nevertheless, it was a 175-point cut on the index, and the outperformance that we have been witnessing in the broader end of the markets thus far has kind of faded because the mid-cap index also ended lower by about 0.5% or thereabouts. But in terms of the Nifty Bank Index, at the start we hit a fresh record high of 56,100 or thereabouts. But even the Bank Nifty took a sharp U-turn. In fact, ended the day lower by 300 points or thereabouts, around that 55,600 mark on the Bank Nifty. The breadth was tilted in favor of laggers, but it wasn't really that bad. 2:3, that was the advanced decline ratio on the NSE. In terms of India VIX, that cooled off slightly, 4% cool off on the India VIX index. Yesterday, we had seen a sharp rise on the India VIX index, so volatility has cooled. Perhaps that's why, it wasn't such a bad trading session, although the Nifty was down over 170 points. But in terms of sectors then, most of the sectors aside of the Bank Nifty were in the red. Barring the realty pack, it extended its gain for a second straight session. But if you look at some of the other pockets like IT, FMCG, autos, those were among the laggers. In terms of gainers, the list was fairly slim today. Grasim, Shriram Finance, M&M, Bajaj Auto, Cipla, they were among the stocks that managed to hold out in a weakish market. And on the flip side, the laggards list was dominated by Adani Twins. You had Bajaj Finserv that wasn't doing well, Power Grid, Coal India, and a whole lot of other stocks among the laggards, including the likes of IndusInd Bank, Eternal, Ultratech Cement, Maruti Suzuki, NTPC, and the likes. In terms of the broader end of the markets, there were quite a few stock and sector specific movers. For instance, you had fertilizer pack up in about 5 to 15% kind of gains on stocks like Fact, RCF. A lot of other fertilizer stocks also did well, the likes of National Fertilizers, etc., Madras Fertilizers, and some of the other names that did well were the likes of Brainbees, Lloyd Metals, and even defense and shipbuilding stocks were in focus. They were on the gaining end. In fact, defense stocks were extending their gains for a second straight session. On the flip side, quite a few block deals today. It was a busy day for block deals. You had Aptus, Yes Bank, Ola Electric, all these stocks, had block deals, and they were reacting to that. They were down somewhere around 7 to 9% apiece. You had Reliance Power after the sharp surge. The stock came under profit booking today, and so did Suzlon. But on that note, let's understand the setup for the rest of the week and how things are poised on the charts. For that, let me introduce Aamar Singh, Senior Vice President at Angel One. Aamar, lovely to have you on the show. We've been ranged between 24,500 to 25,000. We've had a down day for a third straight session, but we've still managed to defend that 24,000. Such range bound moves, are we going to hover around the 24,500 to 24,900 level as we head into the RBI policy decision on Friday?
I don't think that if we look at the markets, we're definitely witnessing some sort of consolidation there, no doubt about it, because higher levels are being sold anywhere between 24,800, 25,000. That's now become as a zone of resistance for the market. And from a short-term perspective, I would say 25,000, 24,400 and 500, that's acting as a crucial zone of support. So I would say if you look at the charts of the benchmark indices, be the Nifty or Bank Nifty, currently they are definitely indicating from a shorter term perspective that there is consolidation happening, and also higher levels are being sold into. That's one. However, if you look at it from an intermediate term perspective, the trend is very strong there. So effectively, it means is that any pullback is likely to witness or any sell-off is likely to witness a pullback as well. And if I look at Bank Nifty again is trading range bound, as you rightly said, ahead of the RBI policy meet as to what the rate cut, whether a rate cut happens or not, and what's RBI outlook. Those would be important triggers for the markets, because we definitely witnessed some sort of positive momentum on the banking side. And if I look at Bank Nifty per se, Bank Nifty has been holding quite firm vis-a-vis if I look at Nifty over the last few days. On the downside for Bank Nifty, I would say
Hmm.
somewhere around 54,800, 55,000. That's an immediate zone of support on the downside, whereas on the upside, resistance is somewhere around 56,000 odd level. So it's more of a buy on dips for Bank Nifty is concerned. Nifty is more or less buying towards 25,400, 450 would ideally be a good level of entry because from there we could expect a pullback. But one thing that definitely needs to be borne in
Hmm.
mind that given the structure of the markets, from a shorter term perspective, clearly it indicates consolidation.
Okay, we can expect more consolidation going forward. But the rally in banks has also been led by PSU banking index, right? That index has been on an upswing today. Of course, it was a day of breather. But anything from the PSU banking names that caught your attention, SBI for that matter, would you look at buying SBI on dips as well?
So see, if I look at SBI in particular, SBI definitely is positive on the charts. There's no doubt about it. If I look at it from a intermediate term perspective, when the short term trend for SBI is positive, it is trying because basically, if you look at SBI on the charts, what I see is that somewhere or the other, it is definitely running into some sort of resistance because on 22nd of April, SBI had made a high of around 835, and from there it had corrected all the way towards 755, and then recent high that's on Monday, the stock had made a high of 822. So anywhere between 830, 840, that's going to act as a zone of resistance for SBI. Taking that out, then yes, we could witness some sharp rally in the stock. Otherwise, the stock could witness some sort of consolidation. However, the trend from a short term and the intermediate term perspective is very strong. Long term, we are seeing some sort of consolidation there, but with a positive bias.
Hmm. Okay, that's about SBI. But Yes Bank, the biggest FNO loser today, it has snapped out of a 3-day gaining streak. There was a block deal in the counter. According to sources, 3% equity changed hands via block deal, and a private equity investor may be a seller in the block deal. Of course, this is according to CNBC TV 18 sources. But looking at the charts of Yes Bank, it did manage to see a good up move. It has recovered above that 20 levels. In fact, even after today's sell-off, it has been holding on to the levels of 20. So, what are the next levels to watch out for on the counter of a Yes Bank? And or this dip, should it be utilized to buy the stock?
See, honestly, I don't track much of S Bank because of the volatility and also because of, I would say, primarily more on the case of volatility and the price band where it trades. So if you look at Yes Bank, what we witnessed today was a very sharp correction. And prior to that, if you look at the previous day, again, there was a major rally. So that clearly, so when you're seeing this sort of volatile moves in any stock, you have to be very careful while you're using technical indicators because then they generally don't give you a great perspective on that side. Having said that, if I look at Yes Bank, yes, volumes had increased. The stock was in for consolidation somewhere around 1820 was acting as a zone of resistance. Taking that out, it rallied towards almost 23 odd levels. It is again back to 20. So I would definitely say that those who are getting into Yes Bank, they should be prepared for volatility and higher risk in this counter because the stock has been quite volatile. On the downside, yes, the stock is very strongly supported on the 16-18 zone. Upside 23-24 is a zone of resistance. If I look at it from a purely from a technical perspective, what I see on the daily charts, we've seen a waning in momentum, and on the weekly charts, yes, it's definitely positive, but it's moved in overbought territory. So effectively, it means this that higher levels will be sold into, and the stock on the long-term charts is likely to meet with very strong resistance around the 23-24. Sustaining about 24, then the stock could rally. Maybe we could witness a 15-20% rally post that.
Okay, 24 on the upside will be a crucial level to watch out for on Yes Bank. Talk about the realty space as well as we await the RBI policy decision on Friday. Realty saw good traction in a weak market as well. It was standing tall. Stocks like Prestige Estates have seen a very good they are in a very good uptrend, so to say. In the last 5 sessions itself, Prestige Estates has rallied 10%. Within the real estate basket, any stocks, any trends that you are spotting, and from a trading perspective, which one would you find attractive?
See, if we look at from a real estate perspective, so here what we are seeing is that definitely there is some sort of positive momentum which is being seen there in the reality. So if I look at, for example, Brigade Enterprises, the stock has is up, and I would say this looks quite promising on the charts, be it from a short-term perspective or intermediate-term perspective, because the stock has broken out of a key zone of resistance somewhere earlier around 1120, 1130 was a zone of resistance. It's taken that out, and the stock has a potential to rally towards the 1300 levels on the upside. So this is one stock one can look at. DLF also has rallied, but we are seeing some sort of consolidation there. Godrej Properties, if I were to talk about, it's meeting with some sort of resistance around the 2300, 2350 odd level. And Oberoi Realty is another stock which is inching higher, but it needs to sustain out the 1800, 1820 for any further upside.
Okay, those were the names from the real estate pack looking good. But Aptus Value, another stock that was in focus, there was a block deal, 13% equity worth 2,000 crore rupees exchanged hands in a block deal. The stock slumped, I think, in excess of 9% today, and the stock hasn't really been doing well. It has been stuck in a downtrend. At 306, would you look at this stock at all?
So if I look at this particular counter, so I would say that see it did rally from almost 280 levels to 340, and then again it has corrected from those 340 levels currently around 300 or 7. If I look at the long-term charts, see what happens is that you've got either an uptrend or a downtrend or a sideways movement, consolidation. This stock is purely in for consolidation. It's good from a trading range perspective. So on the downside, somewhere around 280 is very strong support zone. So buying around those levels, selling around 330, 340. That's the way one can look at this stock. Otherwise, I don't see any trend in the stock materializing anytime soon.
Okay, that's about Aptus Value. But another highly volatile counter, Vodafone Idea. Street is fairly divided. Some of the brokerages are predicting levels of 6.5. Some of them expect the stock to recover to levels of 10, double-digit levels. Of course, much has to do with AGR relief, where the government will, dole out more support, which, of course, according to a report, the telecom minister has already said that there won't be any more government relief for the counter. But the company, in its earnings call, was fairly confident that the government could, in fact, step in and provide more support. So all this is happening, but looking at the stock, how would you approach it at all? As in, street is divided. Which camp are you in?
So if you ask me in particular about this particular stock, so I am not honestly, I really don't track this stock very closely, even technically, because for the simple reason is that this stock this stocks moves more with news and specifics, and also what we've seen that the stock is, I wouldn't say it's a penny stock, but it's somewhere around 6 to 7 rupees. So investors or traders also like to get into this counter because a little move here and there could make 5-10% move here and there. So one needs to be really careful in such stocks. If you ask me technically, the technically stock has support around the 6.4, 6.5 rupees. On the upside, resistance is around 720, 720. So it's a very narrow range that the stock is likely to move in. And till the time it doesn't see a breach above the 8 level, you shouldn't expect any major rally in the stock.
Okay, that's the view on a Vodafone. But one pocket that was buzzing in how today was the entire fertilizer basket. Stocks like National Fertilizer, RCF, Madras Fertilizer, Gujarat State Fertilizer, all these stocks, rallied anywhere between 5 to 15%. Of course, there's this early monsoon, hopes of exports picking up. These are some of the triggers for the stock. Just want to put into perspective what really happened. The European Parliament has approved a bill to raise tariffs on fertilizer, agri imports from Russia. And the new policy will gradually increase tariffs on certain fertilizer from the current 6.5% to nearly 100% by 2028, effectively curbing imports from the major suppliers like Russia. And aside of that, 50% duty will be imposed on select agricultural products from the same region. So the bill is expected to be enacted in July of this year, with phased implementation over the next 3 years. Now, move may potentially redirect global demand towards Indian manufacturers. So, this was seen as one of the triggers for the rally. Given the kind of moves that some of these stocks have seen, is it advisable to ride the momentum?
You're right that fertilizer stocks have witnessed some positive momentum, and RCF, Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers, definitely one of them. The stock did rally significantly because if you go back, the stock had rallied towards 240, 245 in September, in the September quarter, and from there it had corrected all the way towards 110. And then the stock has bounced back almost 40% from those levels. And today, the volumes have also been significant. It's a breakout. So sustaining above the 155, 160 zone, the stock definitely has a potential to rally towards the 180, 185 level. So this is one stock one can keep a close watch on.
Okay, that's the view on fertilizer, but let's just talk about defense. This entire sector, defense, shipbuilding, all that came into focus once again after the rise in geopolitical tensions, of course, between India and Pakistan. But looking at the numbers, some of them have disappointed. Execution has been an issue, but the kind of up move some of these shipbuilding companies in particular that that they have seen, would it be prudent to look at some of these names at these prices? How is the risk reward looking when it comes to shipbuilding names like GRSE, Cochin Shipyard at the current juncture?
So if I look at Cochin Shipyard, see, Cochin Shipyard is still, I would say, some distance from its all-time high. I would say a fairly big distance because the all-time high was almost 3,000 levels. Currently, it's around 2,000 odd, and it's quite strong technically on the charts. So there is an opportunity on the higher side. The stock rallying towards a 2,400, 2,500 level. That's a possibility. And if I look at the other stock, Garden Reach is a different. If I were to compare both these two stocks, Garden Reach is anytime very stronger on technically on the charts because it's trading at record highs, whereas Cochin Shipyard has not been able to breach its record high, which it had made in the month of July last year. But Garden Reach has breached that level because its July 2024 high was to 2833, and the stock is currently clearly shows that this company has been preferred more by investors. And also, if I look at the structure of the stock of the chart, definitely looks strong. But at current levels, entering might be a cause of concern because the risk reward ratio might not be in one's favor. But yes, any pullback is a buying opportunity. If you ask me whether support for the stock is somewhere around 2,900, 3,000, that's a strong support for the stock.
Okay, that's view on Garden Reach and Cochin Shipyard. But last stock then on my list, it's Sun Pharma. The stock was under pressure today. It may be under some regulatory lens. That's according to CNBC TV18 sources. Now, there has been a surprise inspection that's underway at its Halol unit. Now, this is in fact, I think one of the largest units of Sun Pharma, and quite a few. It was already in fact under regulatory lens. The unit was under import alert post a warning letter that it received from US FDA. The last inspection was in May 2022. But yes, now there is news that there is a surprise inspection underway at its flagship Halol unit. There are quite a few concerns regarding the pharma pack as to how the tariff picture will really play out. And of course, for some of these big players, the Revlimid patent coming to a close from Jan 2026, that will also be an issue. But on the charts as well, there has been some weakness, particularly for the likes of Sun Pharma. Would you look at some of these names from a positional play, as a positional play, or would you avoid?
So if I look at Sun Pharma in particular, so Sun Pharma is clearly has clearly been displaying for a very long period. I would say if I were to specify from when, so almost the first week of November onwards, the stock has been in a downtrend. Means it's not been able to sustain at higher levels. It did rally towards 1900 levels, then corrected towards 1600 currently, and then again rallied towards 1800. Again, it's towards 1660. So if I look at it from an intermediate perspective, even the long-term charts, they really don't point towards a very strong up move. They point towards that it could be in for consolidation. Ideally, if you ask me, a good level for entry is somewhere on the 1500, 1530, 1550 level for Sun Pharma, from where we could expect an upside rally. But you need to understand that it's likely to trade in a range between 1500 on the downside and 2000 on the upside. So that's a range play for this particular stock.
Okay, that's the view on Sun Pharma. But before I let you go, Aamar, any recommendations for our viewers?
So if I look at some of the stocks, then uh, uh, Housing and Urban Development Corporation is one stock one can definitely look at. So it's currently around 247. This is one stock which is quite strong technically on the charts. Uh, it is inching towards a key zone of resistance. That's around 265. But any pullback in the stock can be a buying opportunity towards 240, 245 level can be an entry, where on the upside 260, 265 can be looked at from a short-term target perspective. And on the downside, the stock has got good support around below the 240 levels.
Okay, Hudco coming in as a recommendation from Aamar. With that, Aamar would like to thank you for taking out this time this afternoon and joining in, and of course sharing your thoughts. Always a pleasure, and look forward to our next interaction as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Well, okay. Well, before I say goodbye, of course, just a few hours to go for the IPL 2025 finals. And it promises to be a cracker of a match between Royal Challengers Bengaluru and Punjab Kings, at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Both the teams have not been able to win the title so far. So whoever wins, it will be history in the making. RCB, of course, has played the finals 3 times before. It was runners-up in 2009, 2011 and 2016. On the other hand, Punjab Kings has reached the final for the 2nd time. So the big question, will Virat Kohli, jersey number 18, finally lift the trophy in this 18th edition of IPL? Well, we'll get to know in just a few hours from now. So yes, it does promise to be a very high octane evening. Have a good one, and let us know in the comment section who you guys are supporting. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Closing Bell. Stay tuned to Moneycontrol for all your other news and updates, and of course come back and join in tomorrow morning with the markets. It's a goodbye from me and the entire team.